Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here today. And before I get started too much further, I wanted to do some introductions. You're going to be able to meet the members here soon because they're going to have an opportunity to speak. But why don't we just start on this side and you guys just quickly introduce yourself. Go ahead. Yeah.
Hi, Senator Doug Erickson from Whatcom County.
Representative J.T. Wilcox from Pearson-Thurston County.
Senator Jan Angel, 26th District.
Senator John Braun, 20th District.
Matt Swanson, I'm a roofer from Tacoma.
Dean Hartman, I own Capital Business Machines here in Olympia, Washington.
Tony Freeman, dairyman from Grant County.
Tom DeVries, dairyman from Yakima County.
And I'm Judy Coover. My husband Jim and I own Printcom Incorporated in Burien.
And I'm Roger McCracken from Master Park, Airport Valet Parking.
Petra Connor, National Federation of Independent Business.
Erin Shannon, Washington Policy Center.
Michael Baumgartner, husband, dad, and senator from Spokane.
I'm Kelly Chambers, and I own Visiting Angels.
Jeff Chambers, owner of Visiting Angels.
Robert Like, owner of KR, which is a measuring equipment supplier.
Linda Wilson, co-owner to Wilson Cabinet Manufacturing.
Norma Smith, Representative 10th District, which is Island County, parts of Skagit, Snohomish.
And Senator Steve O'Ban, 20th District with West Pierce County.
Right, and I want to thank you all for joining us. Thank you, everyone here joining us here today. I'm very excited today to be standing up here with Representative Matt Manweller, who's not only my seatmate, but the lead on the Business Issue Committee over there in the House. I'm Janaea Holmquist-Newbury. I am the chair of the Commerce and Labor Committee, and it's been no big secret that a top priority of the Majority Coalition Caucus has been private sector job creation. And so what we're trying to do here at the state level is do what we can to reduce the cost of doing business, because we know that's going to increase our competitiveness nationwide and globally, as well as improve our business climate. And if you haven't yet got your hands on that recent CNBC study where you rank and compare all the states in the nation, we have a lot of room for improvement. Washington State is ranked 5th worst state in the nation when it comes to the cost of doing business. So again, a lot of room for improvement. I'm just briefly going to mention one of the bills. We have a comprehensive Jobs Now agenda that has so many bills it would keep you here till tomorrow if we went through them all. But we just passed off in a bipartisan manner off the Senate floor our Workers' Recovery Act that gets at the point of reducing the cost of doing business by providing an additional option and choice to all our workers. And this is an option and choice when it comes to our industrial insurance system that all of their brothers and sisters have in 44 other states. And we're opening up the structured settlement that currently on the books is only allowed for our 55 and older injured workers, and we're removing that age restriction and giving this option and choice to all of our workers. And I'm proud and excited that we just got that off the Senate floor. And at this time I'm going to pass it off to Senator Matt Manweller, and then we have a few other folks that would like to speak.
Thank you. Still a representative. We'll talk again later.
Oh, well, yeah.
If you're retiring, if you're making plans, let me know. Thank you all for coming. As you remember, about 2 months ago, we all came back to Olympia for a special session to engage in Herculean efforts to save Boeing and the aerospace industry here in Washington. And at the time, many of the people in my caucus felt that if we were going to take such efforts to save the Goliath of our state, that we should take equal efforts to save all of the little Davids. And if we were going to pass B&O tax reform and regulatory reform and permitting reform to save the big guys, then we should also take those same efforts to save the little guys. In that spirit, I've introduced a rural tax credit that was allowed to expire in 2010 so that it will promote economic development in the other 33 counties in the state, that it will encourage economic diversification in the other 33 states, 33 counties in the state. We feel in my caucus that we should promote economic development and job creation regardless of your geography, regardless of the size of your business, and we hope that that is one step in making sure that everybody in Washington has access to the same benefits that we did for the big guys a few months ago. Thank you.
All right, and now Senator Angel, if you'd like to join us, you're welcome.
Thank you, and good morning, afternoon now. Thanks for joining us. This is my first press conference as a new senator, but it hasn't been my first exposure to working for jobs. And I'd like to start off by a quote from one of my favorite men, Mr. Ronald Reagan, who said, "Let me make very clear our goal. Jobs, 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 and more jobs. Our policy has been and will continue to be, what is good for America workers is good for America." What we are doing here today is not only good for America, it's good for the people of Washington State. And I just come off the floor where I was honored to be able to tell just one of the stories about how our employees are not able to get out there and do the job, find a job. And I'll tell you what, this is a big rolling snowball, if you will, because when you have a job, you can pay your bills. When you have a job, you have disposable income. That disposable income comes back to the state of Washington, helps us fund education, taking care of our most vulnerable. And you can't have a job if you don't have good, strong employers behind us that can continue to create and retain the jobs that they have. One of the bills that I am bringing forward, it had a hearing this last week, is prevailing wage, a process bill. It's bill number 6137, and it's going to improve the accuracy of the prevailing rate of wage. Now, this is a process bill. Prevailing wage is here. It's been here for a long time. We're not debating that. But you need good information to make good decisions and come up with good policy. I have a number of bills for the cosmetology folks. I was an employer, and I had about 54 employees in that arena of cosmetology. I have bills for online training, bills for new hair design licenses to help get people back to work faster and to provide those jobs for a lot of the people that very often fall through the cracks. So I'm excited to be part of the Majority Coalition Caucus, and I'm looking forward to get Washington working again. Thank you.
And, Representative Norma Smith, I think, yeah, come on up.
Thank you, and thank you for being here today. I just wanted to bring forward a bill that's going to be heard on Friday. I've been working since I arrived here in the legislature on the issue of regulatory reform, and while that sounds like something that makes your eyes glaze over, I want to tell you why it's so important. The bill on Friday deals with permit timeliness, and we are so grateful to the excellent work that the previous state auditor did and the current auditor to bring these issues forward. This is an area where we can unleash tens of millions of dollars in the private sector without spending a dime of taxpayer money by providing better customer service. So the bill simply says to the agencies, you're going to inventory, you're going to post, you're going to start counting the days that permits take, and we're going to shrink that time, and there's going to be accountability measures to do that. But I want you to understand why why one of our key competitive disadvantages, our regulatory climate, matters so much to people who want a hope and a future in Washington State. In the crosshairs of this kind of duplicative, burdensome, unanswerable situation that our agencies put people in is the production sector of our economy. And it's in the production sector of our economy where we build and we grow and we create, from agriculture to aerospace, where the best job opportunities are for a non-college graduate, where the wages are buoyed for everyone in Washington State. And do you know what? More than 60% of Washingtonians do not have a 4-year or advanced degree. We have to protect and grow the production sector of our economy if we're going to deal with the issues that we care so much about, that offer hope and opportunity, that deal with the rising situation where we have wage inequality. We have to fight for those jobs that offer a path forward to the kind of family wage jobs that do offer that hope and future that we all long for each and every Washingtonian.
Thank you, Representative. And now, and most importantly, I wanted you to be able to hear from some of the workers and the employers of our state who are happy to join us here today. And so I wanted to open it up, and maybe Judy, you want to kick it off? Would you like to say something?
Off the top of my head?
Well, or not, if not.
No, that's fine. I in writing my testimony for later this afternoon, I thought of something, and this kind of sums it up, and I've been hearing it. It's like Right now, we have giant signs in Spokane and down in Vancouver that says, "Welcome to Washington. We want your business to locate here. Enter at your own peril." And that's pretty much, I think, how a lot of us feel right now as business owners.
Thank you, Judy, and I'm so sorry, I forgot Senator Oban is going to have to leave pretty soon, so I wanted to give him an opportunity to join us as well. Welcome.
Thank you very much. We're all proud of our men and women in the military. We're proud of them because of their sacrifice. We're also proud of them because of the extraordinary experience and training they receive in the military. Many of them are transitioning out of the military as we downsize. And unfortunately, the unemployment rate for veterans, both in our state and nationally, is much higher than the regular civilian population. So I sponsored a bill that passed out of the Senate today, 5970, which addresses the issue, I think, squarely, in that it takes the training these fine men and women have received with their superb work ethic, and it recognizes that training and applies it when they are seeking a certification or a license from the state. That training will be recognized, credited, carried over, and it will make it, of course, much more swift for them to re-enter the civilian workforce and earn a living without unnecessary unemployment. So this is a bill for jobs, but specifically to the men and women who've served us so ably. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Oban. And thank you, Judy, for speaking. I sure appreciated that. And I wanted to offer and open it up to any other workers. Now, I know we got a roofer. Did you want to say something,
Sure,
Matt?
sure.
Come on up.
As I said before, my name is Matt Swanson. I'm a roofer from Tacoma, and I'd like to focus on just one item, and that is the state's very high workers' comp rates as compared to other states. It's really important to me because as a worker every week, a certain amount of money comes out of my check. That money could be less. It's important to my employer because 5% of every roof that's put on in Washington, the cost of workers' comp is what goes into that. So for example, the average residential roof is $15,000. $750 goes to pay for workers' comp insurance. So that customer has less money to spend at the grocery store. So it hurts me, it hurts my employer, it hurts the end user, and it really hurts the grocery store. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt. And thank you, Matt. I appreciated that. Any other comments? Feel free. Just maybe reintroduce yourself. Roger, right?
I'm Roger McCracken from Master Park, Airport Valet Parking, and we are now the beginning of the experiment in this state with the new initiative that just passed in CTAC. I want to talk about just quickly the effects of a poorly written law on how that might affect the state. And so that's why I'm testifying down here today. Master Park is made up of 5 companies. We chose to meet the $15 minimum wage. We didn't have to meet it throughout our company business. We chose to meet it. That put us into a substantial increase in costs, as we're all aware. And the problem is there are 2 things that this law affects. From a competitor standpoint, we have competition up and down our neighborhood that has to pay $9.32 for their shuttle bus drivers. We are now in the position of paying $15. About 25 businesses do not have to comply with this law. About 8 businesses, or 2 businesses, of which we have 8 lots, have to comply with this law. And I'll demonstrate that in much more depth when I testify. The other element that we are caught up in this new law is the jurisdictional battle that's going on and being appealed up to the Supreme Court. Directly across the street from one of our CTAC sites is a Tukwila site. They don't have to comply. They're at 932. The largest competitor in the neighborhood, Port of Seattle, is at 932. They don't have to comply. So it puts select businesses at severe risk, and we need to talk about that on a state level and make sure that bad policy does not infiltrate our state. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Roger. Any last folks that want to say something? Come on up. Welcome.
I'm Robert Like. As I said earlier, we are in the business of supplying measuring equipment to construction sites, which that brings us to prevailing wage, which I certainly can talk about, also the $15 minimum wage. One of the things that I believe needs to be considered here is there is skilled labor out there that does make $15 an hour. Okay, if the minimum wage goes up to $15 an hour, what's that going to do to our skilled labor costs? Okay, are they going to want to work still for $15 an hour? So I think that the danger of all of this is the economic imbalance it has with the rest of the labor force, and how we're then going to have to deal with that. Do we go to 20 for them? We go from 10 to 15? We go 15 to 20? Where does this end for our skilled labor? Thanks.
All right, and I just saw the time and we are getting close. As you heard alluded, there's going to be some interesting conversations on some of these issues that impact our business climate directly. And starting here at 3:30, actually in the Commerce and Labor Committee, we will have some hearings on some of these issues that you just heard discussed. So at this time, if members could join me, we'll have a few short minutes left for Q&A. Yes.
A question for both you and Representative Manuel, they're related questions. Do you have any particular job creation goals? Like with this legislation, has anyone done the number crunching to say if all these were implemented, it would create X amount of jobs, say by 2015 or 2016 or 2017? And for Representative Manweller, to install or reinstall a tax exemption, there was the law that was passed last year where you have to have specific metrics and goals. Do you have specific metrics and goals?
We do. We complied with that bill. And to answer your first question, actually, is that absolutely there was a Department of Revenue report that was issued in 2009, which showed that the counties in which this tax exemption was in place had a net growth of 5% unemployment, and the counties where it was not in place had a net loss of 4% unemployment, for a total delta of 9% increase in unemployment. It also showed an increase in manufacturing. So we submitted that to the Finance Committee. We submitted that to Representative Carlisle. And I would remind you that was not done by any partisan group. That was done by the Department of Revenue.
Does that translate to actual numbers, say like 5,000 jobs in 5 years?
Well, we usually don't. I mean, percentages are a better way to go. 5% in King County is obviously different than 5% in Lewis County, but we did do the metrics, and all the metrics came out positive, and that was actually noted by Representative Carlisle in the hearing.
Okay, let's grab another question.
Okay, paid sick leave and minimum wage increase are likely to come sailing over from the House. We already know about paid sick leave. There's probably an increase to $12 over the House too. So I'm just wondering, what sort of a reception is that going to get over in the Senate?
Well, I can speak as the chair of Commerce and Labor Committee. I think these debates are really healthy, and that has been an approach I've taken as chair, that I don't think any of us are scared to talk and debate these issues, and I think it's actually helpful. And so I have said all along that if these measures reach my committee, we will have a healthy dialogue. I will hold a hearing.
Senator, may I follow up on that same subject, the preemption legislation? What is wrong with local control?
He's the prime sponsor, that's why we call him
Senator John Brown, 20th District. So imagine, if you will, right now we have an initiative that's passed in SeaTac. We have conversations in Seattle, but we have dozens of jurisdictions in the Puget Sound area alone. So imagine if you're a company that has a driver that's going to drive across the Puget Sound, and they're going to cross a dozen different jurisdictional boundaries in the course of an afternoon. How do you process that payroll? How does the employee know when they're getting paid what? So this is a very, very complex issue. I'm not saying it shouldn't have, it's an important issue, it's one that deserves a discussion, but it's appropriate at the state level, because when you toss that out there, all you're doing is adding to the complexity of business. And we've had this discussion lots of times. We're already way too complex when it comes to the way our businesses must operate in Washington State. So an important issue, but one that's appropriately had at the state level, and that's why I offered that bill.
I hear from Democrats that the transportation package would create, 5,000 to 7,000 jobs a month, something like that. What's the energy from this caucus about public sector jobs? I mean, the transportation package, that kind of stuff. Don't hear any of that yet.
Sure. Well, we think Senator Mike Baumgartner from Spokane, we're excited about how many jobs potential transportation, if done the right way, could produce. Yesterday in Ways and Means Committee, where I am the vice chair of Ways and Means, we heard a major piece of potential lawmaking that would redirect sales tax from transportation projects back towards transportation. And the amount of projects we could build with that would create so much economic development in a jurisdiction like Spokane, where we have a north-south freeway that needs to get built, that we would have more than enough economic growth generated from that measure to refill the coffers of the state operational fund. So we are very excited as a caucus for the opportunity of what the public sector can do. It has to be done the right way, and it has to be done in a way that the public trusts.
Can I add something?
Sure. Well, just a second, actually.
I just want to add something to your question. As a Democrat, I don't think we should do a transportation package until we have reforms. And that seems to be the attitude of the House right now. But in the Majority Coalition Caucus, we think the public is saying, do those reforms before you do any package.
Thank you, Senator. You've already had an opportunity. I just want to make sure we give everyone an opportunity. Jerry.
And the two caucuses discuss if they support the governor's tax reform bill, and what's the status of that moving through either caucus.
Are you referencing the $50,000 exemption? I think that we generally support, I can't speak for every member of my caucus, but I think we generally support any attempts to make the B&O tax in Washington State simpler, and we also support any type of B&O tax reform that helps small businesses. But let's remember, that's $50,000 of gross revenue. So, I mean, you are talking about very, very small firms. So I do support the governor. I think most of my caucus does. I think we'd like to see that threshold raised a little bit. I mean, if you think about $50,000 of gross revenue, that's probably maybe $10,000 of net revenue, $20,000. That's somebody who already has a job and is doing something out of their homes.
And I've just got to point out, while many of us are supportive of that approach from the governor's office, it may help us have startups. New businesses to start up, but our problem is we have one of the highest failure rates in our nation. So we've got to do what we can at the state level to ensure that while you can open your doors to business, that you stay open and you can continue hiring Washingtonians. And that's something that at this point we still haven't seen much from the governor's office, and I'm hopeful we'll see more, that some sort of things to improve our business climate to make sure that those businesses that do start up are here 10 years down the road. Thank you.
I'd also like to point out that although that level of tax relief is welcome, the tax package that he outlined yesterday overwhelms, for many small businesses, the small advantages that his first proposal made.
Well, I am so sorry this went by so quick, but we are at starting time for Commerce and Labor Committee to start up. So again, I want to thank you for being here, and we look forward to this continued dialogue. Jobs now. Thanks, guys.
Good job.
Good job.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you.